Iranians had thought they were past the peak of the virus, but the new total of 200 dead within 24 hours has prompted the health ministry to issue a new warning.
Unfortunately, many people didn't listen to me. They didn't take demands of mine and my colleagues seriously. We are facing a new wave now.
It's been 4 months since the virus hit, and it's been responsible for the deaths of nearly 12,000 people so far. The government's blaming the resurgence on guidelines being broken.
I ask our dear people to take masks and coronavirus seriously. Masks and social distancing can prevent the disease by 80%. Now that we are paying such a huge price, people have to take my advice seriously. At the time, my colleagues and I were insisting people pay attention. Many people didn't believe us.
To try and flatten that curve, bars and restaurants here must now close at 10 p.m. during the week, midnight on weekends. Public gathering spaces like sports facilities and ballrooms closed down altogether. 2 other French departments are also cause for concern. While the national infection rate stands at just over 68 cases per 100,000 residents, in Bouches-du-Rhône it's 196. In Gironde, the number is 159. At La Timone Hospital in Marseille, doctors are worried. For them, the reasons behind this new spike are clear.
Les rassemblements festifs avec une population jeune, sans gestes barrières, a probablement facilité la propagation de la maladie par la suite aux différentes classes d'âge. Et ça a été, je pense, en plus avec l'afflux de touristes qu'on a eu, vraiment ce qui a fait tout le bouillon de culture pour ce virus.
As the pandemic accelerates throughout Europe, Spain is once again especially hard hit. Masks are still mandatory. Bars and restaurants are operating at only 50% capacity. Gatherings of more than 10 people are banned. Those measures remain the authorities' safest bet in a war that does not appear to be ending.
We remain on alert. This is not good, especially in some regions, and it must be stopped.
COVID-19 tests are being conducted in areas where the virus is most prevalent. In some areas of Barcelona, residents between 18 and 40 years of age are asked to take the test, but others are encouraged to do it as well, just to be sure.
It's been 6 months since the first COVID-19 case was confirmed in Peru. And even though the country imposed a strict lockdown early on, it's now registered more deaths per capita from the virus than almost any other nation. Many here are losing patience.
People think that this virus is a joke. This is something they don't believe. They think it's a smokescreen. I have family members who've died because of COVID, so this is not a game. This is real and people take it as a game. They even have parties and meetings without wearing face masks.
So far, in Peru, over 600,000 people have been infected by coronavirus. On Tuesday, the country reported over 30,000 deaths. Peru is a country of 33 million people with high poverty rates and a healthcare system that has been chronically underfunded, leaving it unable to cope with the demands of COVID-19.
In Italy, officials are reporting an average of about 1,500 or so new infections each day. Now, that's nowhere near the peak figures we saw at the height of the pandemic, but it's definitely higher than the rates we were looking at back in July. Of particular concern as well is the increase in admissions to intensive care units in hospitals. Now, since mid-August, all people arriving from Greece, Spain, Malta, as well as Croatia are tested on arrival for COVID-19 when they reach Italian shores. Now, that list has been extended this week to include 7 French regions, including Paris. Italy's health minister has said that while Italy is doing slightly better than some other European countries, now is the time to remain prudent to ensure that the sacrifices that were made by Italians are not made in vain.
Officials are warning the public that COVID-19 infection and fatality rates are headed in the, quote, wrong direction. More than 40,000 people in Britain have died within 28 days of testing positive for COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic in March, the highest number across Europe. CBS News correspondent Roxana Saberi is in London with the very latest.
The government's top medical advisor said today COVID-19 infection rates here in the UK have turned a corner in a very bad sense. He said if nothing is done, new infections could rise from just under 4,000 cases a day now to nearly 50,000 a day by mid-October. Authorities imposed tighter restrictions on communities in northeastern England last week. People there can no longer socialize with other households. And across England, most gatherings are now limited to 6 people. The health secretary has not ruled out a second national lockdown. The virus has killed more people in the UK than in any other country in Europe.
The worst of Mexico's COVID-19 contagion could be only days away. Mexico's deputy health minister warns the national health system could soon be under the greatest pressure from the virus.
Today we want to start phase 3 of the pandemic, remembering that we are in the phase of rapid ascent, where a large number of cases of infections and hospitalizations will accumulate, and we must continue to maintain social distancing so that these are minimized as much as possible.
For Mexican health officials, phase 3 refers to the point where the virus will spread the fastest, hitting its peak in the first half of May.
India has now crossed the 5 million cases mark. The bad news is that we're yet to see a peak. In just the last 24 hours, we've seen 91,000 new cases, and the number of people that have died in the last 24 hours, 1,284, taking the total death toll to more than 82,000. India is now second only to the US, and in most of the hotspots, the cases are still rising. India has now got 1/6 of the total number of cases across the world. As we said, numbers still rising, almost 1 million active cases.
Brazil, meanwhile, has now reported more than 4 million cases of COVID-19. To be precise, 4,093,000. Officials say that as of those people, that of those people, 80% have recovered. After the United States, Brazil still ranks second in the world in terms of case numbers and deaths, but it could soon be overtaken by India, which lags by only about 70,000 cases.
The United States has reached another somber milestone on the COVID-19 front as the country saw its death toll exceed 200,000 on Tuesday. The number is far higher than any other country in the world. Since the first known COVID-19 death was reported in the U.S. on February 6th, the country has seen an average of 858 COVID-19 deaths a day. According to the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, COVID-19 is now the second leading cause of death in the U.S., just after heart disease. In a much grimmer comparison, the virus has now killed more people in the U.S. than American troops killed in battle during the 5 most recent wars combined, including the Korean War and the Vietnam War.